Hey, welcome to the podcast. Today we're talking to Andy Buyting. Andy is the founder and CEO of Tulip Media Group, and he's a thought leader in content marketing and in thought leadership itself. His integrated content strategy has served both himself and his clients exceedingly well. He's published two internationally best-selling books, including How to Win Clients and Influence People and Double Sales with Zero Salespeople. And we're leaning into that conversation today when we talk about how he, on a Wednesday afternoon, literally let go of his entire sales team and that quarter reached their sales goals for the first time in 18 months. So sit back and enjoy the episode here with Andy. Andy, welcome to the pod.
I'm excited to be here.
There's so many directions that we can take this in, from our shared love of marketing, kind of interesting. Like the video, I'm not sure if everyone can see the video or if it's going to be on video, but you have a very interesting sports coat on, which is a bunch of yellow tulips and one red tulip. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we help you become the red tulip in the sea of yellow.
I think that's pretty important more than it is than ever. If we go on LinkedIn or our emails, we might have a bunch of spam. Sometimes I get spam direct mail, but the good pieces I do open. I'm curious to know right now, like from your overarching perspective, what is the red? How do we become red tulips in today's, like, it's end of 2023, beginning of 24? Like, how do we stand out in a unique way, or how do you think about standing out?
Sure. Well, I've always been a fan of good branding. And oftentimes with companies, and it doesn't matter, like branding is not just for the Apples and the Coca-Colas of the world.
Mhm.
Branding is, everyone has a personal brand. Every small
Mhm.
business, whether you have 2 employees or 200 employees, you have a brand in your marketplace. So the way to really stand out is, the first discussions we often have with client partners is understanding who you are truly as a company and who's your core customer. Like, who is it that you can help serve? You're really good at what's your core competency? What are you really good at? And who is the core customer that truly appreciates the product or service that you're selling?
Mm.
And within their mind's eye, you want to be known as the expert. You want to be known as the authority. You want to be known as the go-to person, which is your brand. You want to be, you want to be known as that undisputed authority in your marketplace or your industry. And that's truly, at the end of the day, that's a way to stand out among everyone, all the other noise out there.
Just having that unique voice, a unique person. You're not for everyone, but you are for someone.
Exactly. And as soon as I was talking to someone yesterday, I did a keynote and somebody approached me afterwards and they said, oh, we have this technology and we can do this and this. And he was talking about all these different things. And I
Mhm.
said, it sounds like your technology can do a lot of different applications. Yeah, we can help. We can help marketing firms. We can help manufacturing companies. We can help sawmills. Who's your core customer? Like, who do you want to, you've got to narrow in,
Mhm.
because right now you're trying to be, when you're, as the saying goes, when you try to be all things to all people, you're nothing to no one.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a problem. That's right. So if you really want to stand out, you have to really be well known for something, right? And I love a quote. I remember my father when I was young. He read, and I forget what book he pulled it from. I honestly forget where it came from, but I always remembered it says, the secret to success is know what you're doing, know that you know what you're doing, and be known for what you know. And a lot of people, when it comes to branding, those who are successful, they are known for what they know, and they're crystal clear themselves, and their marketplace or their industry is knows and understands what they know and what they're good at, and that becomes their brand.
They pretty much put that flag in the sand. How do you work with clients through that? Because I'm pretty sure you work with a lot of people with expert blindness, or just like the expert syndrome, where they know too many things to really hone in on. Because when you're working with marketing, you have to have one dedicated thesis or outcome or goal with one narrative. You can't have all these. How do you help distill that into a simple, here's what you're doing, here's who you're helping, here's how we're going to get them? Walk me through that process, because that sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming. We don't know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be very challenging for people. So we always start, whenever we take on any new client partner, we always start with a true understanding of who is your core customer. What is the product or service you're selling, and who's your core customer? And we've learned over the years that we've had clients that we've worked with in the past that said, well, we're looking at this and this, we're not sure what we want to sell yet. Well, then we're
Hmm.
not a good fit for you. We only work with client partners who understand who they are. First, you need to
Mm-hmm.
understand who you are. We'll help you understand who your customer is, but you need to understand who you are. And if you don't have a successful product or service that you're already offering, we can pour fuel on a fire when somebody has that. But if they don't have that, then it's usually not a good fit.
It's the
So
hardest part
where
of
we start,
business. Yeah.
what's that? Sorry.
It's one of the hardest part of business is to find that thing and then you can scale it. But you're right. You can't solve that for someone else.
That's right. Every startup starts up the same way is you say yes to everything. You say yes to every opportunity because you need to. You need to get that money in the front door. So can you do this service? Yes, we can do that. And even if it's on the fringe of what you normally like to offer, you'll say
Mm-hmm.
yes to a lot of things. And by doing so, it's not a bad thing to do. It's a really good thing to do. And it's natural for businesses to say yes to everything, but that's called a startup phase. Once you figure out, and you might try, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and you might try 8 different things. And when I was chatting with this gentleman, he was saying, "Oh, yeah, our technology could do all these different things." And when I said, "Well, who's your core customer?" And they said, "Oh, it's anybody that needs any kind of application." I said, "No,
Hmm.
let me ask you, who is your best customer in the last 12 months?" So they named their best customer. I said, "What industry were they in?" They were in manufacturing, in actually sawmills, in lumber manufacturing.
Hmm.
It's interesting. Okay. So you work with, I mean, they told me about working with lumber mills, working with airports, working with universities, working with marketing companies. Like, it was a vast array. But when I boiled it right down, they said these lumber manufacturers, these lumber mills, they buy our service, our technology, because it saves them so much money. They never question the price. It's usually the question is, how quickly can we work with you? I said,
Okay.
what if you, and just a thought experiment, what if you focused on lumber mills all across North America? Go after the director of operations or general managers or whatever the title might be, but go after those operating managers of lumber mills across North America. What would that look like? And he thought, wow. He said, it would probably make our sales process a whole lot easier because
Hmm.
we're really good at that. And the other thing is they have amazing success stories and they can leverage those for referrals and reviews and endorsements and so on. And your core customer is somebody who is already buying what you're doing, but they're not balking at the price. They understand the value. What you do has more value for some customers than others. That's
Mm-hmm.
just a given.
Yep.
So, who is it that you serve that where you provide the greatest amount of value and they are happy to spend the money with you? They never ask for the discount because the value is so high.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we start with our client partners is let's define your core customer. And then we go one step further. And this is where my conversation with the gentleman went yesterday was, okay, it's the director of operations for the lumber mills. Well, why? At the end of the day, you're selling to a person. You're not selling to a lumber mill. It's
Yep.
not an entity that you're selling to. You're selling to a person. So why did the last person sign such a large purchase order?
Hmm.
Well, when we boil it right down, we help them reduce their cost. This was his words. He said, we help them reduce their cost with every time they had to change the line over because their technology did something. I don't quite understand it, but we help them drastically reduce their cost where they used to have to change a line over to produce another product and run a whole bunch of basically waste products until they tweaked everything. Where their technology could come in, and he said, we just shut the line down for an hour. Technology comes in, tweaks everything, does everything, and then they come out, and the chances are they're going to come out right the first time. So there's less waste of product. There's less waste of productivity because it would take a full 8 hours to change a line over for another product quite often.
Hmm.
I said, we can do that leveraging our technology. I said, so you're not even an expense. You're actually making money for them. He said, yeah. So how many clients, how many other clients in other industries can you say that for? And he said, I can't think of anybody. So this made it interesting. So you're talking to the director of operations of these lumber mills. You can save them all kinds of money. So what problem do you think you're solving? And after a lot of discussion, boiled it down to it was the owners or the boards of directors or the CEO that basically put pressure on them to reduce costs in 2024. So I said, you're
Oh,
helping
wow.
them solve a budgetary problem for the new year. I said, what would it look like if you did a marketing campaign targeting lumber mill director of operations or general managers with messaging around facing 2024 budgets, worried about how you're going to reduce cost in the new year? We should talk. Then you're meeting them with where they're at with their own personal fears, because the
Hmm.
general managers are getting pressure to reduce their budgets, pressure to reduce their costs. And you're speaking directly to them, that person, not the entity. And
And
then
you're
all of a
speaking
sudden,
towards an outcome too. You're
you're
actually
speaking,
hitting on something that what am I actually buying? Essentially, they're buying at lower cost, but they're buying back time because of
you're
that
buying
that
back
seven
time.
hours.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Buying back time, buying back downtime is a big thing in that industry.
Yeah.
And if a general manager can bring a solution to the table where it says, we do this changeover a few times a month,
Oh,
think of how
wow.
much time we can save in downtime. My estimation, we can save this many hundreds of hours in downtime in the new year by bringing in this technology. And then all of a sudden, you're solving, because at the end of the day, we're all selling to people,
Mhm.
and all people have their own motivations, their wants, their needs, but they have their fears. And what do they fear? Everyone has a fear, right? And in this case, their fear is not being able to reduce costs as much as their board or their CEO is demanding of them, and not being able to deliver, therefore not having a good performance evaluation, and their job might be on the line, et cetera, right? There's a real fear there for a person.
That's
And
pretty
when you
key.
can address that, then that makes a world of difference.
Yeah, those hooks in those areas, so that you help clients find that thing and then go to market with that thing.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions for you. One, like going through that process, I think was really enriching because we can understand like what are you actually doing? They're not selling software; they're selling hundreds of hours times how much hours their wages are, et cetera. Like they're saving that. How often do you see clients need to upgrade or change that or enhance that if it's working within the market, within market saturation for a hook to wear off or finding a new way of how you can apply an existing solution? I'm curious to know if you
Yeah.
see like a turnaround time.
Generally, it doesn't change that much because it can
Mhm.
last for quite a long time. A couple of other examples. One of our client partners is a fire truck manufacturer. Like when I
Oh,
was 6 years old, that was my dream job, to make fire trucks, right? These guys actually do it. When we boil it right down, they sell to fire chiefs. They focus and they have the most luck in rural fire stations where typically they have two trucks. A truck will last 20 years. So I said, okay, a fire chief who is representing the small community buys a truck every 10 years on average. That's what you're saying. They said, yeah. How knowledgeable are they every time they do it? Well, they have to re-educate themselves because they're only doing it once every 10 years.
hmm.
So once every 10 years, these fire chiefs are spending upwards to $1 million on a truck. So what do you think their fear is? Their fear is screwing up and buying the wrong truck, right?
Mhm.
They will do everything to avoid a mistake. So the way we position this company, and you go into their landing page now, we talk directly to the fire chiefs where they're at. And where they're at is, I make whatever, 70,000, 100,000 a year, whatever they make a year, but I'm being charged by my community to spend $1 million of their money. And they're typically small communities, $1 million
Mhm.
of their money on a new truck. I do not want to screw this up. So we position all their messaging around helping them be the resource. So it's no longer learn about our trucks and our features and benefits and all this stuff. It's our messaging is all around learn about the 5 mistakes that departments do when writing their RFP, because they
Education
don't even know how to
marketing.
write an
Yeah.
RFP.
Oh yeah.
So, and then we have book a consultation with one of their experts, and we position them as a resource for these fire chiefs to be able to call and reach out to. And we provide, depending on the 5 different styles of fire trucks that you want, they will actually provide them with 3 RFP templates free of
Yeah.
charge.
Dang.
But what they also found, the reason why we pushed that one pretty hard, is that because when they influence the RFP, they actually win the contract 50 to 60% of the time. When they do a
It's pretty
proposal
solid.
cold, it's 10 to 15%. So of course we want them to influence the RFP. So we spent a lot of time writing 3 different RFP templates for fire trucks on 5 different product lines. So 15 RFP templates, and use that as free resources. In exchange, you get that once you speak with somebody at the shop. And they're, long story short, over a 2.5 year period, their lead time went from 8 months lead time with building fire trucks, and they push out about 2 to 3 a month, to 2 years and 8 months was the last I heard. He said, we don't want to stop the marketing because it's working and we know it takes a while to get it going, but we got to cool the jets. So we lowered their PPC budget quite a bit. We just need to cool the jets right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. One of the things that intrigues me a lot about what your positioning in the market, your personal positioning, is you increase sales. You focus on increasing sales without increasing the number of sales reps or salespeople. I find that very intriguing through marketing. So, can you talk us a little bit more about that philosophy and that premise? I'm completely behind it. I just want to dive into it.
Yeah, 100%. I believe most marketing and sales processes are not very functional, because quite often you have marketing, somebody looks after marketing and they're in charge of generating leads, and then they toss them over the wall to sales. And then when sales quotas are not met, it's never the sales team's fault, because marketing didn't provide enough leads. And marketing is pretty frustrated because they're sending over quite a few leads, but the sales team does not closing them. It's one process. It's one
Hmm.
process. We got to stop talking about marketing and sales as being 2 different processes. It's all one integrated process. There needs to be an element of sales into your marketing, needs to be an element of marketing into your sales. And the job's not done until you sign a new contract or gain a new customer, whatever that might be. So what I'm a huge fan of is so many people, and when we started our company, we grew fairly quickly working with insurance companies, insurance agencies, and so on. And their go-to knee-jerk reaction to, we need to grow sales by 20% next year, is we got to hire some new salespeople. But
Mhm.
salespeople are very expensive. They're needed 100%, but they are very expensive. And my philosophy is, what if we just made your salespeople more effective? What if we, instead of them going out and knocking on doors and making cold calls to local businesses, trying to drum up some new insurance business, for instance, what if we could leverage good, effective digital marketing so that when they come in the morning, they have booked meetings in their calendar with people who
Hmm.
want to talk to them about insurance? Like, how cool would that be? What if we had contact forms that would be just arrive into someone's email from people looking to learn more about insurance or to get some insurance consultation? What if we had made the phone ring more often? Wouldn't that be easier for salespeople? And in our own company, I often tell the story. I'll do it quickly here, but we grew the company initially on the process that I grew up with and knew, which was
Hmm.
building a sales team. And at one point in 2019, actually,
Interesting.
we had a whole sales department. We had, 7 people. There was a sales team with a sales manager, and our cost of acquisition was extremely high. So high, it was embarrassing. After,
For agency services, right?
for agency services, and we were, at the time, we were focused mostly on custom publishing.
Okay.
So we did some digital marketing at the time, but that year we did a huge pivot. And I remember I heard about the story, it talked with my partners, and a long story short, we made a big, bold decision to actually change, because what we were doing wasn't working. And said, I'm going to propose that we destroy something good in the pursuit of something great. And what the destroying something good
Hey.
was,
All right.
after lunch on a Wednesday afternoon, I still remember it. It was one of the toughest days of my life because it was not pleasant. But one at a time, I called people into the boardroom and I let the entire sales team go in about an hour and a half.
Wow.
Whole sales team go, everybody. And I basically bet the company on, we're going to integrate a digital marketing strategy to bring leads in. We're going to take these resources, dump them into digital marketing, because we had gotten starting to get pretty good at that, and to bring leads in. And then they said, well, I remember the challenge when we were planning all of this. And when I explained what we did to the rest of the staff, rest of the team, they said, well, how are we going to sell? We're not salespeople. And who's going to sell the product? I said, the people in production. You guys are going to sell the product. You guys are going to sell the service. Well, we're not salespeople. No, great. And that's it. That actually makes you even more effective. We're going to use effective digital marketing to make our phone ring, bring in contact forms and book meetings in your guys' calendars. And then when people call, you're going to talk to them. You're not going to talk to them about sales or selling products or services. You're going to talk to them about their marketing. You're going to ask them about their business, talk to them about their core customer, all the things that I'm talking to you about now. Talk to them, strategize with them about their sales goals and where they want to see their revenues grow to and how they're going to go to market. And talk to them about, help them with their digital marketing tactics that they're going to use, strategies, their print marketing, how that's all get integrated and how that can come together. And then when they're excited, all you have to do is say, we would love to help you with this. We'd love to get started and help you with this.
Hmm.
And all you have to do, and quite often they would book the launch meeting and say, oh, the only thing we have to do is I'm going to have somebody in accounting just send you a contract to sign on DocuSign, and we'll be meeting next week to launch your campaign. And it actually became more effective. We actually, that whole thing happened on a Wednesday afternoon. That Thursday and Friday, we were doing our quarterly planning.
Dang.
So it's time to set sales goals, right? And I said, we should keep the same goal as last quarter. And I remember my right-hand person, she was half mad. She slammed her fist on the table. She said, don't set us up for failure. We're not, but we're going all in on this. We're going to use digital marketing tactics. We had somebody on staff that was really good, on the team that was really good at that and wasn't afraid to take risks. And I had my own ideas that I wanted to implement, but I knew with the old team, it was just not going to work because they were going to resist it every step along the way. And 2 weeks shy of that quarter, we hit our sales targets for the first time in 18 months.
Oh, wow.
No salespeople. Now, I'm not here preaching that you should get rid of your sales team
On a Wednesday afternoon.
on a Wednesday afternoon, but we work with, like I said, we work with a lot of insurance agencies. But what I do tell people is, look, instead of spending another $70,000 to $100,000 on a new salesperson, what if you took a portion of that money, because it doesn't even cost that much, a portion of that money and sink it into marketing tactics, so that if you have a team where you have 14 salespeople and you're going to hire another one, why don't you do a marketing campaign for a fraction of a cost of one salesperson to make the other 14 really more effective instead of hiring a 15th salesperson? And so we did that for ourselves. It worked really well. We started talking to our client partners. We had one particular, I remember I was telling them all about the change we had done, how just came off the first quarter. We actually hit our targets for the first time in 18 months. And he said, whatever you did for you, do that for me. That's what I want. So that became the whole digital marketing program that we integrated with our print, and we combined the two. It's really super powerful.
The courage to be able to do that. Did you know you needed to do that because there was going to be resistance and you had the plan coming into it? Or what gave you the confidence? Because that's a pretty courageous thing to do, to be honest with you, right? So what was the motivator to like how you mentioned it? You beautifully mentioned it, to let go of something good to create something great, which is never easy. It does
No.
require like cutting something off. What was that thinking? Like, why that? Why now? And you burnt the bridges to make it happen. But
Yeah. So in our case, the way we were going about doing business, like, it was not sustainable. The cost of acquisition was so high, we just couldn't sustain that as a company. So
through
we had to
direct
change something.
outreach, email, cold calls. So the KPIs were telling you red flag.
Well, the KPIs and the costs, right? The cost
Yeah.
per acquisition was way exorbitantly high. So and at that time, I remember the day before, the day before we made that decision, I think we had booked something like 378 phone calls, because you had the dashboards on the wall, like people were smiling and dialing, recording everything in Salesforce, and it was all in the dashboards. So 378 outbound phone calls the day before by the team went to zero overnight. We haven't done a cold call since 2019 as a company. Only people we talk to now are those who reach out to us first because they're interested in learning about what we do. So the what we were doing was not sustainable. And I had tried a number of times to implement these marketing tactics. And every time I would, there was resistance by the sales team. So, no, don't go into my marketplace because they're territorial. I've got these leads. I don't want anything funny. Like they feel that, and I don't want to say anything negative about salespeople at all, but in this case, like sometimes it felt like they own the leads, the company didn't. And
Hmm.
they resisted change. People do naturally. That's human nature, but they resisted change. And I thought to myself, if we're going to make this pivot, because something has to change, the finances, the numbers required it. Something has to change. And if we don't burn the boat, so to speak, if we don't burn those bridges, we're never going to be fully committed to it.
Hmm.
We had just hired, I told you, we had somebody on the team that was not afraid to take risks. We had just hired actually, it was a marketing intern who came on board, had capacity because they were just there to help support with marketing and so on. And he was a young gentleman that was not afraid to take risks. And I wanted to just let him go. And I would work with him personally. And it would just be a 2-man team or 1-man team with me supporting and bouncing ideas and so on to run with the marketing. And I knew he was not being accepted by the sales people at all. He was there for a few weeks before, maybe a month before. He was not being accepted by the salespeople because they saw him as being a threat to what they were doing.
Hmm.
So when I let everybody go, the young guy's
It was
name was
easy to
Matt. I said,
execute.
okay, Matt,
Yeah.
we have a blank canvas. Let's see what we can do here. And nothing's off the table. Let's just try a whole bunch of stuff. And we eventually, actually very quickly, learned about how the messaging on websites, that how to build a formula around how messaging should work on a website so that when somebody lands on the website, they actually convert and they reach out to us to looking for more information about what we're selling. And we started getting really good at that. And within a year, we were doing it not only for ourselves, but for dozens of our client partners as well. And it came right down to, we burned the bridges. So we couldn't go back because
You
I
had to make it
knew,
happen. You got to make it work.
and it was tough. Look, it was really tough because there were some of them became really good personal friends of mine.
Mm.
And I think I cried more than some of the others that afternoon. It was a tough afternoon, but I knew it had to be done. And the only way we could fully do it, to fully commit to a new strategy, was to literally burn the bridges behind us and not be able to go back.
I'm really curious because one of the things that I hear specifically for selling professional services or selling media or selling services in general, I mean, I don't know the price points, but I'm pretty sure it's like a 6-figure agreement within a year. Like that's normal around, right? That services are purchased, not sold. And then like you have to do the content marketing piece, you have to be out there as an influencer. So tell me about your approach because it's different from running a lead gen funnel, they having people go through your funnel and then from there doing the lead gen ebook download to book a call and stuff like that gets kicked around, at least on LinkedIn. I see people like crap on that a lot, but I'm curious to know, you went all in on marketing. What were some of obviously this worked for you. It's not going to work for like everyone listening here, but I want to give inspiration of like, how did you think about this differently? What did you lead with? And what was the buyer's journey to be able to like literally knock on your door? Hey, let's work together.
Sure. A lot of this is not rocket science. It is common sense, but a lot of people don't take the time to think it through. So for us, for ourselves, for our client partners we work with, we always do start, like I said, we start with the true understanding of the core customer and understanding what are their fears so that we can speak directly to them. And then the other, Clay Clements, who's one of the top copywriters in the world, highest paid copywriter in the world, he'll say, if you're writing ad copy for your audience, you need to truly understand the customer. And he said, you never approach, he said, picture it like you're sitting at a bar and somebody's coming up and sits next to you and starts complaining to the bartender about an issue they're having that your company can solve. Would you
Mm-hmm.
turn to them and say, Hey, I can't help but overhearing, look, my name is Andy from Tulip Media. We do this and this and this. You'll lose them. Instead, you've got to approach them and start the conversation. Hey, look, couldn't help but overhear. I hear you're having a challenge marketing your business. Yeah, that it's tough, isn't it? It's confusing. Yeah, knowing where to start, it's confusing as hell. So tell me, where do you want to see your company go? And start, just have them talk, meet with them, meet with your customers where they're at. So we spend a lot of time understanding the customer so that we can redesign, and we start with the website. We start with the landing page, whatever they see first. And the metaphor I always use is that if you were opening up a retail store, you wouldn't start marketing and then turn around, clean up the store, set up the shelves, hire the team, merchandise the product. No, you would actually set up the store, merchandise the shelves, set up all the products, train your staff, sweep off the front doorstep, and then you're ready to invite people in. But yet, all too often in marketing, I get pitched, probably like you, 24 times a day, people saying, I can increase your website traffic. You know what? I'll tell you a little secret for our own business. I don't care how many people visit our websites. I really don't. I really do not care. What I care about is how many times does our phone ring? How many times do people fill out contact forms looking for information, how we can help them grow? And how many times do we have booked meetings in our calendars? That's what I care about. So it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 visitors to your website or 10. If you have 10 visitors to your website and one of them calls and ends up, or three of them call, one ends up closing a $50,000 deal.
That's a good conversion rate for a website. Yeah.
That's a pretty good day. So we start by understanding the customer, then we focus. And most web developers are good at coding. They can develop a website, but a lot of people have a hard time getting their website together because the content, what do we put on it?
Yeah.
And it ends up becoming a glorified brochure. But being strategic about, does the website, does it pass a grunt test? Does it have a flow? Does it talk to their fears? That's got to be first and foremost. Do you tell them what to do next? And yeah, it's a lot of click funnel type of stuff, but having the right messaging is so key.
Yeah.
Now,
It
once you have
doesn't
your
work
web,
without that.
it doesn't work without that. Nothing works without that. So once your website is done and it's ready for people, now we take what we've learned about your core customer and we go and market and try to bring them to that website. And we do that through, the old adage, is it better to do SEO, do content to get people in organically, or is it better to do paid advertising? I'm a fan of doing both.
Yeah.
Because the SEO and the content and blog posts or what articles that you're publishing will add to your credibility, help you become known for what you know, right? And it will also, as the organic ranking increases, and there are strategic ways to do that, you got to be smart with keywords. So we do a whole competitive analysis, keywords. So we have our keyword strategy that is based on what people are actually searching for, not what you think they're searching for, because times is different. And we develop the messaging for the website, the messaging for the ads, and that also drives what we write about in our blogs. And we advise clients all the time, look, here's 12 topic ideas that we need to write articles on, because people are searching for this information in your marketplace right now. And we can tell you that. So then we create content, and all of a sudden there's one insurance agency in Minnesota, and he said, well, we do a lot of contractor insurance. Well, nobody searched for contractor insurance. Nobody searched for a lot of the lingo that they used was not searched. But what we landed on is when we wrote articles about how to get carpentry insurance. Carpentry was the term that people used. So all of a sudden, and there was no competition because nobody thought of it. But we uncovered it through the keyword strategy. So let's write some articles about how to insure your carpentry shop or your carpentry, contractors. And then all of a sudden, within a couple of weeks, they were actually ranked like, well, as soon as it indexed, it was within about 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks. I can't remember now, but you did that search in their marketplace and they ranked number 2. You don't have to be
It's
number
the
1.
tactics, right? The tactics are simple and they'll change, but I think going back to the core premise is your offer clear, you're talking to human relationships, and let's just zone in on them and give them the experience of this. walk them through and walk with them to
That's right.
understand how we can help them. I think that's pretty interesting. I'll leave with an interesting question that kind of want to get your take on. And not a lot of people ask this, but why do you think a lot of companies choke up with lead gen?
And
Or they
they
don't get
not
it, or
successful.
it's not successful. It's always the number one thing that people struggle with. It's always
Yeah.
the biggest question. Like, what is it about generating leads that has people just stuck?
Well, a good lead is worth a lot, right? We all know that. And if you're going out and doing cold calling, that's really expensive. It's really difficult. If you're doing marketing, most people miss the mark because they're trying to be all things to all people. At the end of the day, you need to understand, because if I'm going online to search for a solution to a problem I'm having, I'm already looking for a solution. If I see your website pop up or your ad pop up and all it is talking about the features, benefits, and why I should work with your company, you very well may lose me. But if you speak to me directly, and that's why that's so important, if you speak to me directly, you'll gain my interest, you'll gain my attention, which will lead to my trust, which will lead to my reaching out to you.
Mhm.
So I would rather spend energy and time developing, really getting into the psyche of the person you're trying to reach, so that we can hook them online and have them reach out to you, because then they're definitely qualified and I'll take those calls all day long, right? But people, I think, get choked up with lead gen because
They
cold
go
calling
straight
is
to the
hugely
sale, right?
expensive and very
Yeah.
frustrating, and marketing is just not effective. It's not working for them. And it's because
Mhm.
they're going about it wrong.
How
You know, I
early? I mean, a double on that one. Like, how early do you recommend presenting the solution and presenting the product or offer? Because you're talking about core pain points. When do you see in the journey or in the customer journey, sales journey, really, to start saying, here's how we can help? Just like that quick transition.
Yeah, it comes naturally and it can happen fairly quickly. And sometimes it happens automated, meaning like when a person's interacting with your website. Sometimes it happens when you're talking with them. But
Mhm.
regardless, whether it's the messaging on your website, the flow, the customer journey that they go through on your website, or when they're talking to someone face to face or over the phone call or Zoom or whatever the process is, regardless, the messaging needs to start by talking about their frustrations and their fears, and
Mhm.
start by talking to them where they're at, regardless of how they may be connecting with you. You need to start that conversation with where they're at, gain that trust, and then you'll share with them that you understand. You share with them that you understand that trust, and then you present yourself as the guide. You're never the hero, right? We
Mhm.
hear this in business once in a while, in marketing especially, but it's so true. You are Yoda, they are Luke Skywalker. Don't come in as the knight in shining armor. You're not going to be the solution to all their problems. You're going to help guide them. And then when they make a breakthrough, it's wow, that's great. That's fantastic. I love the fact that you understand your customer so well. Make them the hero, even as you're selling to them. And certainly when they're a client of yours,
Oh
it's
yeah.
their success, not yours. So you really need to present yourself as the guide. You can speak to your experience. You can speak to your other client success. Again, you're always presenting your other clients as other Luke Skywalkers, as other heroes. And if you take that approach, then, and especially if they're talking to someone, whether you're a salesperson or you're a production person being tasked with taking sales calls, like what our team is, it doesn't matter. You've got to present yourself as someone who you need to be genuinely interested in them, the struggles that they're going through, and helping them work their way through those struggles. As
That's
soon as you
pivotal.
step in there and say, we got the solution, oh, just leave it to us, we got it covered, you'll lose the trust. And then
Resist.
the sales falls apart. Yeah.
This is incredibly powerful, Andy. Thank you for kind of walking us through this, giving us real examples of your experience, but also it helped me think, what am I missing? What can I improve? So I think this is really powerful. For our listeners, what's the best place for people to, one, thank you for being on, and two, check out what we're up to?
Sure. Well, Myself and my partner in crime, we wrote a book last year called Jessica Embry's one of our key digital marketing strategists. We wrote a book last year called Double Sales, Zero Salespeople. And if you go to tm.media/double sales, so tm.media/double sales, there you can download a chapter of the book. You can buy the book, or if somebody wants to, they can book a half hour. It's all automated, right? Book a half hour with either myself or Jessica. And yeah, you could reach out to us there. And I love talking business strategy and especially marketing strategy, and open that up and welcome that by any of your listeners.
I'll put that link in the show notes. Andy, thank you for your generosity.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.